Hello and welcome to Book Juice, the podcast where authors squeeze every last drop out of writing, publishing, marketing, and the pulpy business of trying to sell books on the internet. I'm Louis Urbanowski, Bright, and alongside my fellow juicers today, MJ Perkins and Andy Roy, we talk to writers about what actually happens after you type the end. The good bits, the bitter bits, the bits you probably should have strained out before publication, and everything in between. This is episode 6, and today we're getting straight from the vine. That's bad. With Becky Jane Fox. Becky is the author of Threads of the Fifth Realm series, including Veins of Power and Oaths of Ruin, and hers is a particularly interesting indie story because she's reached that point a lot of self-published authors dream about, me included. Readers are finding the books, the reviews are coming in, the sales are happening, and traditional publishing has entered the conversation, except Becky hasn't simply treated that as the next inevitable rung on the ladder. So today I want to talk about what happens when indie publishing is working, whether traditional publishing is still the prize, how you build an audience and market books without losing the reason you started writing them in the first place, and how Becky has managed to do all of that, living and working with long COVID. So grab something freshly squeezed, or depending on how your publishing week has gone, something a little bit stronger. This is Book Juice, and Becky, welcome to the Juicer.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Before we get into everything that's happened with the books, take us back to the beginning, please. What did becoming an author look like in your head when you first started writing, say, Veins of Power, and how different is the reality that you're living now?
So when I first started writing, I wasn't an author. My background was in like science and business and tons of other random stuff. And I got a mild version of long COVID initially, and I was struggling just to kind of do certain things. So I was looking for another kind of creative outlet. And my friend's kid was reading a just children's fantasy book, and she was explaining the plot to me. And I was like, that's a really dumb plot. I could do better than that. And so I just started writing this like children's fantasy book, and was just having like the best time. And it was just something I could do when I needed to like go rest or lie down. I could just kind of think about it in my head, not necessarily even writing, but just somewhere to sort of escape to. And then I got reinfected with long COVID. It got a lot worse. And we had some deaths in the family, some other stuff. And my friend sent me an adult fantasy romance book. And I'd never dove into this before. And I just got hooked. And I finished the book and I was just like, okay, no, this children's one, just sidetracked. And I just started writing. So it was a very sort of organic process. It wasn't sort of like sat down and planned, thinking about having an author career or what it would look like. It was just a coping mechanism. And I just started sharing the writing of the book. Even the premise, before I even started writing, I had the premise of what I thought I wanted it to be. And I started sharing that on social media. And having a background in business, I saw the conversions and I saw the engagement. And I was like, oh, what is this? There's something here. I didn't realize there was this massive market behind. And so then it just sort of snowballed and compounded from there.
Excellent. Okay. So that background in business, that's the bit I'm interested in, because before I did this, I worked in software sales. So I think I probably have a similar approach to how I look at sales and conversions and stuff. So could you maybe talk a little bit more around that? That's really interesting to me.
Yes. So although initially my background was in science, my husband and I, we built a outdoor education center. So that was our first business. So that gave us a lot of introduction into sort of entrepreneurship. Then we went on and worked for a lot of other people's businesses. And we always found that we were very good at the sort of back end system stuff. And so I always continued down that route and started helping with other businesses scale and set things up that they needed. And so when it came to the book, I just made sure to like plug in all of those experiences alongside it.
Sweet. It comes across on your website, right? I was playing about on there earlier, and that's you taking the reader on a journey, and like you can scroll through it and you can see where you're meant to then have a call to action to jump off and join the mailing list or buy the book or whatever, or reach out. And I thought that was quite telling, and I wrote some notes down to Nick for my own one.
Oh, did you? I feel bad because my website, I like had to completely change it and smash it together. I don't even know if anybody, I do have like a back end system, but it doesn't actually rely upon the website. So I haven't spent too much time on it.
Sweet. Cool.
Definitely.
I find that people with a business background have an edge in this industry big time, because I think when you come at it from a place of artistry, and this is absolutely not a knock on artists whatsoever. This is just as an artist and as someone who was in the music industry for 20 years before coming to writing, the people who have trouble sort of conceiving of themselves as a product or their art as part of a business, I think struggle more. I think hit more frustrations because it feels almost opposed to what you're doing, right? Oh, I'm creating art. I'm making something beautiful. Oh, I don't want to charge people for it. Oh, I don't want to Oh, that's gross. And I get it because I felt that. And again, this isn't like to knock that mindset, but I do feel like when someone can say, no, actually, this is an industry, this is a business. I am an entrepreneur. I am running a small business, and think of it like that. It really helps turn your mindset around.
That's definitely a mindset that I struggle with myself. That kind of, oh, I'm an artist, and forgetting to go to that business side of things. It's interesting.
Becky, can I ask what your gateway romantasy drug was?
Can you guess?
Is it behind me?
One of them is for sure. Both of them are. My friend sent me Fourth Wing, and I was just like, "What is this?" And then suddenly I was like, "Wait, what is this?" And was just. I always think like the magic inside it, not just obviously the magic of the story, but the magic of just the slow burn tension of the romance coupled with fantasy setting. It's a drug, and then straight into ACOTAR afterwards.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can tell just by the color of the books behind you.
It's like having
Big deal, isn't it?
it's like having a Picasso
Wow.
on the wall behind you, right? Everybody would know.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that is marketing. Well, I mean,
Listen,
Yeah.
this is, you will now not be able to unsee it. Next time you see a woman probably sitting in front of a bookshelf, go look for these colors because you will probably see them.
I
But
should have had
that's
some in
crazy.
mind.
I'm definitely looking for that.
ACOTAR was mine, and I went ACOTAR Fourth Wing, so we ramped it up a little bit, but I understand.
Would we say that romance and romantasy are the most, I don't know what the word is, mature or sophisticated genres in terms of being able to distill it down marketing-wise and understanding the mechanics behind it? Because it seems like when I talk to people that are into this stuff, there are touchstones, there are cornerstones, there are things that are just given with it compared to other genres.
I think I don't know if it's like a chicken and egg situation, which one comes first, because with any business you need supply and demand tension, and I think within the romantasy genre there's a really good supply and demand tension because women read these books there's a big amount, a lot of women who are churning through these books very quickly, and always looking for that next one. So that leads to a really nice place for indie authors to be, and then there's a big community around it on Book Talk, so then you can advertise really easily, and it sort of kind of all merges together. So I'm not sure like which one came first, whether it's just like a perfect storm. Whereas if you were writing just your classic, I mean, everybody can still find ways to market, it's 100% definite, but there's a platform already there that you can like slip into. The community has built the platform.
When you started writing, did you start from, because I can totally relate to I can do better than this, right? I love that. I love starting from that place.
That was the kids' book, not Fourth Wing.
Right, understand. Did you have a trope in mind? Did you say, I'm going to do a slow burn enemies to lovers, and you started from there?
Yeah, so I think as well when it comes to book writing, and even when I'm thinking about my next ones, I'm always thinking of premise first and potentially how it could market. And so when I was writing, I was like, yes, I know I want to write an enemies to lovers. I know I want to have particular tropes that I want to hit on. I hadn't really read too much in the genre, but I knew from just like storytelling frameworks what I wanted to do. And again, then when I started to test it before I even wrote the book, I tested little quotes and I tested little snippets of things that I wanted to have in the book. And just saw how they landed and was like, oh, okay, there's something here. I should definitely dive in.
Oh, I need to ask about that then. So you're basically saying you did market research on quotes and concepts and premises on, I suppose, TikTok and Instagram. Wow, I've actually not heard anyone say they've done that before. Before leaping in. That's cool. That's really good.
Well, whenever you have like, if you were doing if I was doing a product or a service, or if I was doing any type of business consulting to somebody and they came to me and said, do you think my business is a good idea? I would always be like, my opinion is irrelevant. The market needs to tell you. So go out. And I used to do all these kind of, startup hackathon events where you go, and you mentor people through like a weekend, and it was so much fun. And one of the things we always encouraged was, don't sit here and think about if it's a good idea. Go out and get market validation. So I took that approach with the book as I was building it.
And what did good look like then, in terms of what's a good bit of feedback then, or if it got 0 views and 0 engagement, or some, I don't know.
Yeah. So I did a couple of like quotes, a couple of like promises around the premise, and I boosted those posts and put them into, because I decided that I was going to write the book and have some kind of like nurture sequence that would bring people into the world. And I eventually actually had it where I was writing the book, and if you joined, anybody who joined could get the chapter by chapter as I wrote it. So the very first book, I wrote chapter by chapter and gave everybody the chapter as they read along. I still do that, but now I do it just with like a private community of readers, not everybody. And so I had a boosted post. I boosted a couple of posts that brought people into, if they commented, they then got put into the sequence. And the conversion rates, I was just seeing, I was like, this is like any business's dream to see conversion rates like this high on a paid ad. So I was like, okay, all right. Like, it gave me the confidence that, and again, I didn't know really about the world of romantasy and fantasy or books at that time. I didn't know how big the market was or anything like that. So it was something that I also learned over time. And now I'm like, oh, this makes sense why we're seeing conversion rates like that. But
so, Becky, you said this is a good conversion rate for a paid ad. For our sort of writers who are putting out their premises, their stories, their ideas onto TikTok, onto Instagram, what would you say is a good kind of return on the investment in terms of click-through engagement, that kind of thing?
Okay, there are definitely, I would go and double check all of these things online because there are sort of standardized rates. But I think if you were trying to convert cold from audience, so a lot of people are always trying to get followers, whereas followers convert at about 1%. So if you think about how many, and that's taking them off the platform to another landing page, and then you're going to have another conversion rate kick in. So when you think about trying to sell a book, you're like, wow, how many followers would I need? So I was never aiming for followers. I was always aiming to get people straight to a landing page. So a lot of the people that saw my posts maybe never even came to my Instagram page. They just went straight through to the landing page and then got that email. At the time, I didn't have anything to sell, but I got the email address so that I could continue to sort of just get validation and things. Ads, generally, if you were running, say, like a Facebook ad, a click-through rate is what the kind of bog standard that you're looking at to see how many people see the ad and how many people click on it. People usually aim for, a 5% or something would be really good. Most people are kind of averaging around 1% is anything above kind of 1 or 2. Whereas my ads at the moment, we're converting at about 8 or 10. So you can see how actually that really makes like such a difference. Yeah, especially for a book that's like, I'm getting $2. You need to have a really high click-through rate to be able to make everything financially viable, basically.
Becky, what would you say to someone who was afraid to put things out about their premise, about their characters? Because I do know that there are people who very jealously guard their ideas because they're afraid that they're going to be stolen. Great. And I've seen a lot of that out there. So what would you say to someone who took that approach?
I would say the same thing I would say to business ideas. Ideas are worth a penny. Execution is where it's at. Like execution is just the hardest thing, right? No one's going to sit down and steal your idea and write a 6,000, 100, like my trilogy is going to be 3 books, 600,000 maybe plus words at the end of it. I mean, yeah. And it's probably going to take me, 3.5 years of my life. So I'm not too worried about kind of putting it out there. And even if they did kind of take the idea, they're going to do it differently. And even if you've then created the product, they still need to go and sell it or market it. So yeah, I would just put it out into the world for sure. Get feedback.
I had that question a lot when I was writing. Mine's super niche. It's like disgraced politicians and that. And someone said, "What, you worried about someone stealing it?" And I was like, "Not really." Not really. If they do, then I'm
Very specific.
Yeah.
Right?
So I was just looking at mine because you piqued my interest. You said 5%. My ads at the moment is 2.6, so I'm rubbish. That's
Get those numbers.
You're still
up
about,
there.
to be honest, like I said, if you were selling, I mean, a lot of these software, if you were doing basic software or something like that, they're looking just to get above that 1%,
yeah.
you know, and,
That's
but there's
fascinating. I've
definitely,
never
yeah.
had it spelled out like that. That's really cool.
Yeah,
I love conversion rates. I think once you know that data, you can then reverse engineer and you can, what do I need to get this? And it makes everything so much easier.
Becky, if you were just starting out and you had absolutely no business sense whatsoever, where would you direct someone to learn about things like conversion rates, right? There's probably people listening to this who have absolutely no idea what you're talking about right now. So where would they go to begin learning about this?
To be honest, courses can be very hit and miss because there's a lot of con ones out there, but there are some really good ones. And I haven't learned this overnight. I've been in this industry for, 15 years and I have done my fair share of courses. I've also tested things myself. So I would definitely be looking out, looking at courses in small business digital marketing, 100%. Just do your due diligence, look at reviews. There'll be different people that you vibe with. I did a course by Ali Abdal a couple of years ago. He had a YouTube channel, and because he was a creator, all of that information that they shared, and it wasn't a course. This one was a great thing because it was like a mentorship program. So you worked with his team, and you could just ask his team absolutely anything. So that was really incredible. But there's also really amazing indie authors out there that share. I love jumping on a podcast and I'm happy to share everything, but I don't usually post about it day to day because I'm managing my long COVID, plus I really trying to prioritize the writing. Whereas there's a lot of authors that do share, especially on Threads. I've realized I didn't really go on Threads before, but on Threads there's a lot of indie authors sharing their wins, sharing how they did it, and that's really a great place.
Threads is an untapped one for me. I have a couple of friends that we have in the Book Juice group who are showing me some of the stuff they're doing on Threads, and it can be as simple as, like you say, the wins, posting a review, posting a chapter they had to rewrite because it was rubbish. So the losses as well, I think, sometimes resonate really well. And some of the engagement they get there is crazy. It's not happened for me yet on there. I'm more of an Instagram guy, but yeah,
well, I don't know about getting sales through Threads, but more definitely finding indie authors that are sharing, how they're getting sales, how they're doing this. There's a lot of people sharing all their back-end information on there, and that's amazing.
And I'm told it's a great place to find literary agents as well. So that might be a good segue into your experience with Trad, which this is how I found you, by the way. I saw that video you did, and I was like, I need to talk to this lady. And then I was like, I need to ask if she'll come on the podcast. So, yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about that without me spoiling any of it? That would be amazing.
Yeah, sure. So I think the book had been out for about a month, I'm going to say. And we had quite a lot of buzz initially just because of some of the stuff I set up to try and get that initial hype. And I just had an agent I'd started getting some emails, but I had an agent slide into my Instagram DMs, which I didn't. So I was like, is this a scam? But then I also got an email from them as well. And it was from WME, which is one of the massive literary agencies in New York. So I was like, oh, wow. And they were representing all the big authors that I was, kind of up against. Like, I don't know if there's a book called Quicksilver by Kelly Hart. There's a book called Diabound. So they knew. And so I just kind of instantly was just like, yeah, sure. I wasn't looking for an agent. I didn't think I needed one, but I was like, you can't say no to an opportunity like this. And so suddenly I had an agent, and then suddenly we were sort of talking about submitting the manuscript out. I need to do some edits on it and things like that. But then audio book deals started coming in and foreign rights and things like that. And then suddenly I started getting really stressed because I was thinking I need to stop and think about whether I want this and what deal would I want if there was going to be a deal. And also, this is a trilogy and I'm right at the very beginning of it. And so if we did sell it off to somebody, what I've seen is suddenly that it's like when you're writing a book or writing a trilogy, it's like a steam train, right? It's momentum. It takes a lot to get going, unless you're lucky and you get some kind of viral thing. And then once it gets going, you just want to keep that train rolling. But if you suddenly go trad, it's like sticking something in the tracks, because you're suddenly stuck in meetings, and you're suddenly stuck in all these meetings, and they want to do loads of edits and changes sometimes. And so it's just going to put everything to a grinding halt, which really scared me, because I was like, that's the worst thing you can do in a business, is disrupt like the cash flow and disrupt the momentum. And also, if I was to sell, suddenly I started looking at all the conversion rates, and nothing made sense, because I was like, well, my ads are converting right now really well at 10%. But on that 10%, I'm getting, 70% of my royalties from Amazon. So these make sense, and I'm able to keep them on. And my main goal was keeping ads on. I can't rely upon organic marketing with my health. That's also a really tough game to play, so I want to keep the ads on. And I was like, wow, if I hand this book over to a traditional publisher, I'm literally going to be... Somebody said it's like playing a game of roulette, right? Where if you're an indie author, you can place your thing on any tile, right, and choose. Whereas suddenly, if you hand it all over to a traditional agent, you can only place it on one tile, and then you spin, and the ball is in their court, literally. And if they aren't good at marketing it, or if they don't want to put any intention into it, it's very easy that it can just disappear off into the background, and that really scared me. So I also, again, I wanted to keep that momentum going, so I decided that I was going to release my second book in 2 volumes, because I was like, well, I've done the first half. If I can put it out there, and I can then have my average customer value be that bit more, because there's more content for them to consume, and things like that. I think my agent wasn't like that keen on. So we sort of very, very amicably, she was lovely, parted ways. And then I felt this huge sense of relief, and hopefully she did too, because I think I was probably causing her a bit of stress.
We're going to cut that bit, and I'm going to put that in the book juice group, and there's about 5 people I know that I'm going to at, and I'm going to say, watch this. I'm just going to watch this. There's a bunch of people, and I was the same when I started. My book's been out 4 months now. It's my first one. And indie publishing to me was what you did when you didn't get trad published, was what you did once Query failed. And it was always almost a backup option, and you had to make it work. But now, as I understand it, and from speaking to you today, we spoke to an amazing guy called Craig Schooler last week, it's 100% not the only game in town. Indie publishing can be much better, much more consistent, and obviously all within your control. That's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that.
No worries.
I met with a publicist when I was first trying to figure out what the heck this industry was. I had written a draft of a novel, and I was like, great, now what do I do? And someone told me, start querying. Like, that's just what you do when you have a manuscript. And so I did. Actually, today, I've had my rejection letters taped up on this wall just to keep me motivated, and today I took them down. I was just like, no, we're done with that. But I had met with this woman who's a publicist in the industry, and I was asking her about timing, because my book was topical, and I was trying to outrun a Supreme Court case. I was like, this is going to drop, and it's going to change the law, right? I'm a lawyer, and I was writing a book about law. I was like, the law is going to change, and I need to get this book out into the universe. How quickly can it happen? And she said, the worst thing that you can do in this industry is try to chase trends, because, and this was November 2025, she said, if you sold your book today, it would not come out until 2028. And that to me was enough. I said, that is insane. And to your point about momentum, I can't imagine doing all of that work and building all of that yourself, and then just slamming on the brakes, and then giving someone else a bunch of your money. What was there an advantage that you saw? Because the people that I spoke to who were pro trad publishing said the publishing house has the best editors, they have the best cover designers, even though you lose control of your cover and they pick it for you, they have really good artists. So are there still positives to trad publishing, and is that still something you would consider if you had more control over the process?
Good question. This is talking not from direct experience because I haven't entered the trad world, so it's obviously just from what I've seen from the outside. But I've spoken to
you dipped your toe in that.
my toe.
More than us.
Spoken to a lot of friends who have gone down that route, and a lot of indie authors who have gone trad or gone hybrid slide into my DMs, and we have conversations about it and what that looked like and all of their deals. And I think the biggest thing is physical distribution. Like, I cannot really distribute my books globally in bookstores, in airports, in libraries. It would just be, and a lot of times these bookstores, they have closed channels. So like I couldn't even try and get my way into them. Like I can reach a customer directly, but I can't get into a bookstore. So if you really want to do physical, if you really want to see your book in a bookstore, then trad is still going to be the way to go. That doesn't necessarily mean sales, because bookstores only hold a couple of your books at a time. Shelf space is very limited. So again, there's lots of things that come with that. If you want to be a New York Times bestseller, trad is probably the way to go as well, because there's all weird data stuff that goes on in the back end. But again, New York Times bestseller doesn't mean sales. It means in that very first week you had a particular amount of books sold. It doesn't mean lifetime or what's going to happen over time. And yeah, I do think if you want, I'm very lucky. I'm really arty, and so I can do a lot of the art and books, like design and digital stuff myself. My husband is very, he's got a law degree, and his parents are linguistic professors, so he's very good at, he reads my chapters. He still has things still slip through though, which is so funny, but I'm dyslexic, and so I just like write the wrong word and it just comes out completely wrong, and he'll just go, yeah, I don't think you meant that there.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
that's,
I can
and
see why
obviously
you
we've got
turned down
and
traditional.
Grammarly. Yeah. I think again it comes back to that. There's a thing in business, right? Unfair advantages. If you've got an unfair advantage in something, and I think when it comes to indie authorship, actually, sometimes my diverse set of skill sets have worked against me. When I've tried to get traditional jobs, I literally had someone in an interview turn around once and just said, like, Becky, like, what is it that you do? We don't understand. And whereas I think those things actually in entrepreneurship, if you are the type of person who is a bit multifaceted and really enjoy doing lots of different things, it really works for you. So I'm definitely lucky in that respect. But
That's cool.
Sorry, back to your question. Trad benefits. There are definitely trad benefits. There are traditional publishers now that are realizing that the tides are changing. So either with their big successful authors, the deals are changing and you don't know about it, and actually the authors are getting a lot more money than you think because they've realized they've got leverage and they've gone back into those conversations and said, actually, no, I want 70, you're having 30. And also, I think the big thing, and I think this is the way it's going to go forward, is the hybrid approach, which is physical versus digital. And a lot of the newer, younger trad companies are saying, hey, like, you can keep your digital, that's fine, because we have nothing, we can't, like, there's no reason that they should take it. Like, you can put it on Amazon and it distributes and it's fine. But let us take your physical, we'll redo the cover, we'll do some editing, and then we'll launch that. And so I think that's a really good approach.
Yeah, they're almost like seeding the digital world and then staying where they are. That is interesting. Here's a question. So most people will listen to podcasts nowadays when they go to bed. So let's assume someone's laying in their bed tonight, tomorrow when this goes out, and they've got a manuscript. It's nearly finished or it is finished, and they're like, I can do all these things. What would you say when they wake up that next morning? What was the first thing they should do?
Is this the type of person who's just written the manuscript secretly at home themselves?
Yeah, they're like, I don't know if this is good. I don't know what I want to do with it. What is the best thing I could do? What should they do?
I would try and find 10 of your ideal readers, strangers, and see if they will read the book.
Interesting.
And, I mean, you can even try and pay them to read it, because if they're not going to read it by you paying them, it's going to be very difficult for you to get readers with them paying you. So again, I would just get that market validation, because again, like your friend might tell you it's bad or good, your mum might tell you it's bad or good, but again, their opinion does not matter. What matters is, who is your ideal person, total stranger, do they finish the book, and do they want to tell a friend about it? You know, do they want more?
Net promoter type stuff. Yeah, that makes so much sense. So on the flip side to that then, it's a hard one to ask, I guess. If you've got a manuscript finished, are you a big fan of like going out and doing the 300 ARC readers, the 300 beta readers type thing? Would you scale it up beyond that? And have you ever killed a project because you didn't get that validation?
Yeah, I would definitely. Again, the whole ARC thing, I was learning all this as I went. And one of the things I would also tell people is, if they can, listen to tons of podcasts and reach out to people that have done it before you. So I tried to find people online that did consulting, and I paid for an hour of their time, just to kind of understand things like that. Yeah, I didn't know what ARCs were, and so I didn't know if I needed them initially, but I'm so glad I did do them. I used NetGalley, and I paid for, I think, a 6-month listing, so my book was up there. A lot of people are picky and choosy about which ARC readers they get. I just tried to make sure my creative and the description of the book was very obvious about who I wanted, and then I just let anybody have it, because once it's on Amazon, that's what it's going to be like anyway. So I was like, right, I might as well bite the bullet and just let anybody read it and review it.
I think that's worked well for you, right? Because you've got 2,000, I think, reviews and ratings on there now, which is incredible.
Yeah, so most of them, so I think most of the initial ones, I think I probably got about 1,000 reviews initially, all from sort of ARC on Goodreads. So ARC readers go onto Goodreads and post it, because there wasn't an Amazon listing. So the Amazon reviews are all from paid customers who have actually read the book. And this is what all authors should do as well. I've got a back-end system that funnels people, asking them, leading them into reviews. Because otherwise, like most people, if you look on Amazon, even Fourth Wing or something, you'll have maybe 10,000 reviews on Goodreads, and you might only have 1,000 reviews on Amazon. Whereas right now, I think, because I'm not looking at Goodreads at the moment, because I've just released a new book and it's just not helpful. You need to give it some time. Yeah, it is helpful at some points, but just not all the time. I have about 2,000 and something Goodreads reviews, because it obviously has the additional ARC reviewers, but I have 2,000 Amazon reviews. So we've got like a really high ratio.
That's awesome. What did you do? What did you do in terms of your back end? So you said you have a sort of an approach to it that leads people to it. What does that look like, and how did you go about setting that up?
So at the end of the book, it just says, do you want more now? Scan here or go to this URL. And this is where my website comes in, but it's all back stuff that you can't see when you go on there. And it's a bonus chapter. And so, so they go there, they get a bonus chapter, another POV from the male character, which everybody loves. So they go there, they read that, they type in their email, you get the bonus chapter. After that, because now I have my second book out, it prompts you to go straight to the second book. But then you're kind of in the email chain. So then the first email you get is, thank you so much. Here's the bonus chapter if you haven't read it. But it, you know, for every indie author, Amazon reviews are like super important. If you have 2 seconds, like please just like leave a quick rating. And then again, every kind of like monthly email or I follow up, I always kind of still prompt, you know, by the way, if you haven't already, like it's really helpful. So I'm always kind of having that like remind. And I have a Q&A in the back of my book as well that says, you know, like reviews are really helpful. You know, how can I help the book? And it says reviews are really helpful. You know, if you have 2 minutes, please do leave one. And I'm always trying to encourage for that Amazon review.
So
that's awesome.
That's awesome. So Becky, you are not a fluke, right? You knew you were going to have a hit because of all the work you put in, and you know, my first book, I did none of that. I've got none of that in the back of my book, and now I'm sitting there going, why didn't I do that? Because you don't know, because you just publish it and you get it done. So that is screaming to me that if you spend the time with like a checklist of the things that you probably should do, you are just reducing all of that chance that your book might not do as well as it could, right? And so, so you probably went to bed with, everyone has anxiety, but you probably went to bed going, yeah, this is going to be fine once it's published because you had done all that work. So that's a great lesson.
And do you
Yeah, that's so good,
that
Becky.
checklist, and will you give it to us?
Do I have what? The checklist?
That checklist.
Yeah, that
I
might
should write it out, actually. I should, because then if people DM me, I
Gold.
can just like put it in.
I would pay $10.
Yeah, I'd pay $10.
Do you
for
have
that.
this?
Yeah.
I think the one thing with the book, I think I knew that I had the ability to keep it kind of going. But I did want the book to organically like have its moment, you know, and to do its little thing, which I'm still waiting for. And I just it may just never happen because that is 100% luck. If it just has a little viral moment, I can kind of seed it. But and I think it's good I've changed my expectations around that. So now I feel a lot more better that it's like, okay, actually a successful author career statistically usually is built upon people having a backlist of things that are just slowly, constantly selling versus one viral moment. So even though a viral moment would be amazing, I've kind of just, yeah. And so as long as, the tricky thing is though, again, like going to bed and having all these things set out, I think one of the things that can be a killer is that KDP and Amazon has a 60-day payout window. Yes. And so when you think about releasing a book, you need a 60-day financial runway. And so because I had initially done all that market validation beforehand, I could sit down with my husband and just say, we have the evidence that, and again, if we're approaching this like a business, that this will be financially viable, but we're going to need to float it for 60 days. So that can be a real barrier to entry, I think. Other authors, you know, you can just, instead of going gang-ho all in, like we put in an initial investment and that investment just moves kind of every month at the moment with Amazon, just keeping it, even though we are profitable, the investment stays in and moves month to month, keeping all the ads on. But yeah, if you don't have that, you're going to need to start a lot slower because you'll have to wait for the sales, reinvest the sales, and just slowly compound and grow from there.
How long did it take you to break even? Do you know?
Yeah, so I initially thought, because again, the book was $2.99 and most of my reads were going to be coming from Kindle Unlimited, I assumed, even with the click-through rates, that I was still going to operate at a loss. And I thought that it wouldn't be until the second book came out that we would probably be able to be viable. And so we put an initial amount of money in up front to just keep those ads on. And I was like, I don't know how long this is going to last, but fingers crossed, and eventually they'll just trickle out and then I'll just have to get the second book out. But because of all the ARC readers and the initial buzz, I've opened up my spreadsheet here.
Are you saying you were just Kindle to start with?
Yeah, so all of my money comes from Kindle Unlimited.
Uh-oh.
Like hardly any sales, like 0% sales.
Explain how that works.
Yeah.
So Kindle Unlimited is like Spotify, where people have a subscription to Kindle. And again, for me as a data person, I absolutely love it because I get paid per pages read. So if I have if my marketing was really good, but my book sucked, I wouldn't get money because I'm not getting paid when someone buys the book. I'm getting paid when someone reads the book.
Right.
So the better the book is and the longer the book is, the more you can potentially make. So that's also where I got some real good validation that I was like, oh, I'm getting the reviews, but I'm also seeing the data that people are reading this book. So initially out the gate, the ads were paying for themselves. So I totally messed up my ads at one point because Amazon attribution links, which is how you can track, are just terrible, and I didn't know that. So I thought TikTok wasn't. I have Facebook ads, which is Facebook and Instagram, and I have TikTok, and I didn't know if TikTok was doing anything because Amazon was reporting 0, so I turned them off. So then we plummeted for a month. I went into the negative, but we'd already made a profit. So actually overall, I wasn't negative. I was just not covering my ad spend for those weeks. And then I fixed it. And then just before we released book 2, I went a little bit negative again. But then the second book came out. And also I was only, and again, this is where sometimes the trad stuff, because I was like, oh, if I'm going to go trad, I should target heavily the US to try and climb in the US rankings. So I just put all of my ad spend onto the US audience. And then obviously over time, my ads and that audience fatigued. So then I wasn't converting. So then the margins just became a little bit tighter. And as soon as I was like, wait, why am I doing that if I don't want to do trad? I just was like, oh, great. I'll just open it up to all sort of, England, Canada, all Western English speaking countries. So now everything's a little bit more.
What does your creative look like for a Meta or Instagram ad? Could you send us one for after this? I'd love to have a little look at it and share it.
Yeah. So for anybody on here, the best thing to do is if you know somebody is selling something that you're selling and they're selling it well, because my ads obviously won't work for you if you're selling a completely different book, but you just go to ads library, right? And then you can just type in Becky Jane Fox and you can see all of my ads.
Well, I'm obviously going to do that.
Yeah.
And where
and then you can just
that is on Facebook that you can go to ads library.
So you just type ads library in Google, and it will just go straight to Facebook ads library. And then you can just search the author, you can search the company, and you can just see all the ads that are running.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
obviously, like some of the ads work, some of them don't. But it's really also another thing that works against us as authors is ads now are incredible because there's so much AI stuff in figuring out who is your right audience, and it does it all for you. So you literally just make a ton of ads. You don't need to try and figure out which works. You shove them all into an ad set and you just let Facebook do what it's good at and figure out which one works. You kill off the ones that don't work. You flood it with more, and you just keep going. So you can literally just like throw spaghetti at a wall when it comes to creatives, and the more the better, because it has more to work with, and you just again keep figuring out what your audience resonates with. But for everybody else, you usually have a pixel where when somebody makes the purchase, it tells Facebook this ad converted. But because we are all selling directly on Amazon, unless maybe you are selling directly for your store, we can't do a pixel. So I am just literally like, it's kind of working blindly. So I'm getting clicks, but are those clicks actually going to be customers? Facebook doesn't know. And then it can't fix the algorithm to try and target more people. Some people do a temporary intermediate page. So it goes from ad, website, Facebook, but conversion rate statistics is that's going to kill you because, again, especially if your book is only 99p or $2, you just don't want anywhere where people are going to drop off. So you just want the max traffic going to where they're potentially going to buy, even if it comes at the cost of a bit like not as good data.
So go on, Jay, sorry.
This feels like a sort of 201 level marketing course, which I love, which is fantastic. And I'm not saying slow down, but at each of these stages, I'm going to ask a question for someone whose brain is on fire right now listening to what you're saying, because right, because there are people who are just like, oh my God, this sounds like so much work. Like, oh, I have to. There's a voice in my head being like, you have to learn all of this now, and I don't want to learn all of it, but I'm going to. So where would you begin? What is the entry level 101? Like, what is the most important ad spend, like the best ROI that you think an indie author who's just starting out to market and thinking about buying ads? Because right now I think a lot of our people, our listeners, are just putting a reel together and putting it on Instagram and hoping for the best. I know so far that's what I've been doing. So what would be that first step that you take in terms of buying an ad?
If you're thinking about doing paid ads, 100% do a course before you do it, because otherwise you will be digging a hole and putting money in it. And you might figure it out eventually organically, but I would definitely invest. I did that. I'm still on a Facebook course because I have so many questions about how my ads are performing and things like that. So I like Ben Heath, Heath, I think. He's an English guy. He has a YouTube where he shares everything for free. And then he also has like a monthly subscription that you can go on and join his program and ask anything. So you can be like, hey, how are my ads doing? What's this looking like? How can I improve this? So I would definitely do that. Even though it's like you're going to be spending money, you're probably potentially going to save a lot, because messing with Facebook ads can be a very quick way to lose money.
Yes,
So
I did that.
yeah, I've done it. We've all done it.
I've lost a lot of money on there, but that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fun.
No,
It's like roulette.
Yeah, well, that's
Yes.
great advice, because yes, it's counterintuitive to go spend money in order to learn how to spend money, but if you do it wrong, you're going to spend more money. So I think that's absolutely the right call. And don't just turn it on and walk away, I think is the other thing that I'm hearing.
Yes. So I track weekly now. Because otherwise it does stress you out when you go on, and just seeing how the ads are doing. And my goal right now is to finish. I mean, I'm doing edits, so I'm just like, I've got to finish I'm doing edits on the first book, which is already out, but we're going to do audio and we're going to be doing a limited edition. So I just want to clean it all up. And so again, this is where my business mind comes in. I have gone on Goodreads. I've looked at all the kind of like generalized critique, and looked at the trends. And so I'm just cleaning all that up so that we've got the best book out there before we do the audio. But yeah, I track it every week, all my figures.
Can I ask you a really specific technical question, please? So you're KDP.
This is so much fun, by the way. Like, if my husband was here, he'd be like, "Oh my god!" Like,
Becky, you need to start a consultancy. I would call you every week.
It's so useful. I've literally got pages and
I've got a lot of
pages
notes going on
and
right now.
pages of
Podcast
notes,
background.
Becky. I'm like, this is so good. I'm like,
Why are you writing notes?
Recording this,
Work
Andrew.
smarter, not harder. Anyway, so
Becky-
you've got reviews, and then you've got tropes. I can't really do tropes.
Yep.
Some people can't, but the tropes are good.
well, you can give tropes. Tropes are emotional payoffs. You want to see them
Yes.
as emotional payoffs. So what are the people going to get? What emotional experience are they going to get? Can you link it to something else that's similar?
Your reviews are so fun, by the way. What the
Oh my God, they're hilarious.
heck? No, you can't just leave it at that. My brain and heart can't keep up. I can't function anymore. I've never got a review like that. That's unbelievable. You're
yeah, I'd
hurting
read that
people.
book. I'd read that. That's a great review.
Something that you said, and this is not meant to like pull us away from business. This will come back to business, but something that has been sticking with me since you said it in the beginning: releasing your book chapter by chapter blows my mind, because I have control issues. I also got to the end of my book and I was like, oh no, I need to change the ending, which means I need to retcon the first chapter. And did you feel boxed in creatively by that? Did you feel like, this is just a fun bonus for this inside inner circle community that gets to see my process? What made you choose to do that? And are you doing that with your next book as well?
Yeah. So initially it was just for fun, and again, that like validation. And then I thought I'd just do the first couple of chapters and then I'll stop. And then I was like, oh no, like I want to keep this momentum going of like the readership that I'd started to build. And again, it was a great way to understand if people were finding the book boring or not.
And
and because
really,
really,
you. Where did you release it? Was this on Substack?
That was my question.
yeah, I just had my mailing list, and then I love Notion. I don't know if you know it. It's just a database program where you can build databases. Yeah, so I just I made a database and just put the chapters in and sent them a link to it. So it's basically just like sending them a link to an Excel spreadsheet that had the chapter linked in it. So I just uploaded it as a PDF, and so they would just read it. Once a week, I would usually drop one. I already had a very, very clear image of the trilogy, like the main plot of the trilogy, and I had a very clear understanding of the romance plot. And then the first book was like really mapped out in my head, and I have a big Notion board for how I map out the whole book, and like all the scenes, all the emotional beats, all the arcs, how it all flows. So I had all that before I started, even though when you do write, things do change. So I did learn that characters just decided to kind of do things, at different stages. But I never went back and did any developmental edits at all. It was just tidying prose and cleaning things up. And the same, so with book 2, I've done the same thing. I have a smaller group now and it's private, and they're like my alpha readers, and I give them a chapter every week, and I sit back on this is now on a Discord channel, so I just drop the chapter and then I just watch the Discord group go off, and I can see if they understood something, if they didn't understand something, if they got the wrong impression, if they got the right impression, if my red herring worked, if it didn't, how they're feeling about, and there's just like it's so crazy valuable, because there's just things that when I get reviews at the end of a book, it's like one whole, like, it's like really short actually. Whereas like every week I'm getting the same amount of information. Sometimes it's pretty full on, because sometimes I'm like, the artist in me is like, oh my God, like they can be quite, I want them to be blunt. And we had one chapter come out and someone was like, was that it? Is that all that happened? And I was just like, what? And then I realized though, but the valuable thing about that was there was a dragon bonding ceremony, and somebody was like, wait, like it's just one chapter. What the hell? Like this, did anybody else feel like, and she was like super moaning about it. And I was just like, oh shoot, like why does she think it was meant to be big? And then I looked back through and I was like, oh, that's my fault. I've set the expectation somewhere. So I could then, so little things like that, I'm like, hey guys, if I put these things in where consistently the characters are saying it's super short, it's really intense, but it's super short, then when people land on that chapter, they're not going to have their expectation like, what the hell? So
right. I love that, because I love the idea of being able to go with them on the emotional journey, right?
Oh, it's so fun.
You don't get just the end where they have figured everything out and all of the twists and turns and how they're feeling at the end. You get like the, when I'm with my friends who are reading A Court of Thorns and Roses for the first time, and I'm like,
and you're waiting like this.
What do you think of Tamlin?
Yeah.
And I've seen the women who go out and get like Tamlin tattoos, and I'm like, girl, no, wait for book 2, right? So like being able to watch that happen, I imagine must be so satisfying to you.
It is so much
like,
fun.
Oh, they fell for it, right?
Yeah.
I put this over here, and they fell for it.
And
Has
I think I'd be really lonely.
From your book? Has anyone got a tattoo from your book?
No, I don't know. I can't imagine that. If anybody did, it would blow my mind. There's a couple of things that would like absolutely blow my mind.
This is my fourth wing.
We do have a little wooden duck in the first book. It's in the second book, and somebody went and got a wooden duck, and I was like, that's pretty bad. That's pretty rad.
Holy moly, that's good. What in your own head, what do you term yourself as? Do you call yourself an artist, an author, a business woman? If you can only call yourself one thing, how do you see yourself?
Oh, this is someone asked me. I hate like boxes of like I like buffets. Like I don't have a favorite food. I want to go to the buffet. And again, this is where it's like really, I guess at the end of the day, if I was to prioritize one, not versus like what I see myself as, I would prioritize the entrepreneur business side.
Okay.
Because if I have art that I could never sell, so I think I would always, and when I'm thinking about making decisions with the book, and again, this is a personal decision, because some people really do prioritize the artist, and for them that is the most important thing, and that's 100% fine. But I would always sacrifice some of my art if it meant that I had a more viable product, and that's not something everybody's probably willing to do. But I also really get satisfaction from both. I really love, you can probably tell right now, the business stuff, like I love it just as much as the character development and the creating the book stuff. So
that's cool. It's a kill your darlings kind of vibe as well. Sort of kill your darlings in terms of what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. What comes after Threads of Envy?
The final. So there's do you mean the series?
Yeah. So that's the last one, right? That when it comes out, what are you doing next?
Yeah, so I'm gonna put, hopefully I'm gonna put a little novella in the middle. So it'll be like the 3-book trilogy and a little novella from some other character's point of view. Just seems like a really fun thing to do. But I've been editing at the moment, like I said, which means my creative brain is not really being interacted with. And so I've basically just written another book in my head. Because I can't do any, I'm not writing at the moment. I'm not on, and I don't want to creatively think about the next book because I'm at the stage where when you're writing, it starts all amazing, right? And then you start to get constraints and your brain turns from being creative into problem solving, which I also love, but it's then you're putting the puzzle together. So my brain doesn't have enough energy to go problem solving, but it does want to be creating. So yeah, I'll just hopefully, and I keep coming back to this, when I'm looking at my data and what I'm doing is like, I'm not trying to aim for some kind of viral moment. I want to build some kind of like long, successful career. I didn't plan to have this career. The long COVID came in and snowballed everything. And I'm hopeful that I'll recover. And when I recover, I have this amazing thing that I can then like be, can say, oh, I'm an author and I get to like travel around and meet people and do really cool stuff.
Becky, if I can ask, as a fellow Spoonie, who, when sometime we'll talk about how we both have EDS, and a family member of mine has MCAS and POTS, and we both have EDS, and she has long COVID, and we have a lot to talk about. But what's something that reliably brings you energy when you're feeling stuck? Because I know that we have to pace ourselves in a way that other people don't. And we, I think, can hit a wall or burn out faster than other people can. And so do you have a thing that you do that helps you sort of through those moments, or something that energizes you and lifts you up when you're feeling like the edges of burnout start to creep in?
So this is going to be probably very different from like what I would have answered before COVID to now, because I'm like an old mobile phone. So when you see me, I probably look fine, but like a phone that takes forever to charge. And then as soon as you use it, it drains insanely quickly. So when you see me in snippets like this, I look very fine, but this is like going to be my main activity for the week, So I have a very strict, rigid COVID schedule, other than little things like this where I kind of break it when I'm having like a good day. But I can only do something for an hour, which is reading, writing, watching TV, socializing. Then I have to do an hour of nothing, which is really hard. And sometimes I check my phone. Then I do another hour. And then I yo-yo like that throughout the day. I don't start until 9 and I finish at 7:30. And then I'll go to bed and watch a podcast. And I'm pretty much just at home most days at the moment, not doing anything else. And some days are better than others. But yeah, so it's a really tricky question because I can't do anything at the moment to energize myself. I'm constantly trying to live under my energy threshold with long COVID. Yeah. Previously, in the past, it would be things like this, like this is giving me lots of energy right now, but it's like I won't be using it for the rest of the day. I'll be drained afterwards, and I'll have to just be very careful.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So appreciating then hour on, hour off. We've sort of hit the hour. I don't want to drain you.
But I'm having so much fun.
Well,
feel free to ask me.
We would love to have you back for a part 2 because we could for a long time, I think, and it would be cool maybe once the next book's out to catch up with you and see what's going on and things you learn, and maybe we could then put into action some of the things you said, and we can come back and say, Becky, we did this.
Yes.
How did we do?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
And I've just
and please do.
I was just going to say I've just checked the group since we come on. I put in there we're going to talk to you and stuff. And they seem to have had a fight over the definition of romantasy and who should write what. And it seems to have...
Oh, boy.
And we need to go and police it in a bit, I think, because they're all now going,
what's the consensus?
Writes it, it's this, and when a woman writes it, it's this, and we should...
What?
It's just got... on it. I've just had a little look. It's gone a little bit...
So my take, romantic fantasy and romantasy can be written, I think, personally, by anybody. But if you want a woman to enjoy it, and this is coming from my husband who is editing my book, he does not understand my male main character and why everybody loves him, because you need to understand the psychology of the female mind, which is like, I didn't understand it. The amount of research. I'm writing a romantasy book where I want people to fall in love with my main male character. And the amount of research that I've had to do into understanding what enables women to fall in love is insane. So I found it crazy hard, and I hopefully managed to achieve it. But for a man to be able to go and write, I think he can write a romantasy for men, but it's just a psychological thing. It's nothing to do with like the craft of writing or whatever like that. But it's just like, there are so many, my husband's like, why is your character doing this? And I'm like, he has to do this. And he's like, and I'm like, he has to do this thing. And he's like, but I don't understand it. And then, yeah, it's been amazing for our marriage. It's great.
What's the thing asking for a friend? They just
Oh,
take my notes out. What was the thing that we need to do?
One of the biggest things is something called micro actions of service.
Okay.
And it really is.
The biggest thing is a micro action.
The biggest thing is the micro thing.
Good.
So like,
Good.
I'm
Thank God
doing
for
all
that.
these scenes where like he's doing all these amazing things, saving her life, being all swoony. But the scene that everyone remembers is when he runs her a bath.
Oh,
You know?
I love a micro action.
And
That's
these are the
lovely.
things that probably, if a man was writing the book, yeah, go for it. But I think he would probably, they might not have those things in it. And there's other psychological things, jealous. There's just so many things. Like he's got to be confident. This is a really stupid thing. So I think it sounds funny. Like he's hard but soft for her. But I think that sounds weird. But it's like, you know.
Depends what you're going for. So it's funny you mentioned that. In my sequel, I've just put a scene where it's basically me, but it's not the main character. He gives his pregnant wife a foot rub. So there you go, micro actions. Of service.
Micro action of service.
Well
I
done.
am romance now.
Yeah.
Good.
Romantic political satire.
Becky, we have so much to discuss when the boys aren't here. I'm gonna message you separately.
Amazing. Becky, do you
Right.
want to just give us a little stab at an outro on where we can find your books and what you're up to next and anything you'd like people to know, and then that will wrap us up, I think.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Becky Jane Fox, and I'm on there just sharing pictures of my dog and writing stuff. I don't use my personal Instagram for book marketing. If you want to see more of the book marketing side of things, I have a Instagram account for the book, which is linked. It's called Fifth Realm Saga. And I also have Becky Jane Fox on TikTok, which again is just book marketing. I don't really share much stuff on there. So Instagram there's me. Yeah. And at the moment I'm just editing because we've got a limited edition coming out, which is really cool. And that's a cool way to do some trad stuff because that is but it's only for a limited period of time. So that's a really cool thing because you sell off your rights just for like a month. And that'll be awesome to show you guys. And
Cool.
I'm in the process of auditioning for audiobook.
Awesome.
Very
Good.
exciting.
Well, this has been brilliant.
Nice.
So I will definitely talk to you about getting you back on again. We could just listen to you all day. So I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and rest up. And
Thanks, guys.
superb. Thank you so much, Becky.
Great to meet you,
Yeah,
Becky.
thank you. Really lovely to meet you.